Hello, I'm Graham Fitch and welcome to this month's Practice Clinic. The way the Practice Clinic works is that subscribers to the online academy send me questions in advance on specific spots in their pieces, or it could be a more general question or issue, and I undertake to address. I can't claim to answer the questions fully, but I at least address them and maybe give you a few ideas that you can experiment with. And see if that helps you get to where you want to go with your pieces. The idea is that they should be practice related. In other words, what do we do day by day in our practice, or what do we do specifically to solve a problem? So without further ado, let me get on to the first question, which comes from Julie, who says this. Hi Graham, I am preparing for my ABRSM Grade 7 exam, and one of my pieces, the Mazurka in A minor, opus 68, number 2 by Chopin, often falls apart when playing for others, but not always. Well, isn't that, just before we look at it specifically, isn't that the nature of performance? Is that when we learn a piece at home, there's two distinct things. One is we learn it to know it, and the other is we learn it to perform it, and those are two different kind of practice activities. Let me just finish the question though. I have learned this piece well using deep learning techniques, and I can play it from memory and feel that I have internalized the piece to a large degree. I'm very familiar with almost every note and chord and have analyzed the piece. I understand how it's constructed. Have you any pointers as to how I can address this issue? Thank you. Okay, so I'll go through the piece in a minute to see if there are any things there that might be causing any problems. But, you know, when we're preparing for a performance, we have to first of all practice performing to ourselves, you know, first. What that means is when we've made a decision to do this, we start at the beginning and we carry on playing no matter what goes wrong, as in unanticipated or undesired, through the performance, just like we would have to do if we were performing it. We couldn't get halfway through the second bar and say, oh, I'm sorry, I meant it to be a bit quicker, let me start again. Or we couldn't get to the end of the second section and stumble over something and say, oh, I'm just going to go back a little bit. We have to deal with whatever happens in a performance, and that means practicing that. And it also means sometimes just practicing it at the drop of a hat like that. Can I do this while I'm tired? I'm not necessarily advocating this, but can I get up in the middle of the night and go to the piano bleary-eyed, unwarmed up and play it? You know, these are the sorts of things that we have to practice doing if we are to actually do it. So if you distinguish between practicing to learn a piece and practicing to perform it, that should help you a little bit. But I'm wondering if there are a few things here that I could perhaps suggest. So we've got a marking of lento, and then rather a fast metronome marking, which seems to be a little contradictory. I'd rather ignore the metronome mark and go with the lento. So it's one of those slow mazurkas, and I think it needs to be very free in performance. Get rid of that metronome anyway, because, you know, because I don't think I'd be in time, according to an external click of the metronome, for more than a beat or two. So if we're practicing with the metronome, it's going to get in our way, because it's not what we're going to need to do eventually. We don't want to be constrained by that regularity of the beat. A couple of things that, as I was looking at this before the clinic recording now, that may be helpful. In the left hand, you know, there's quite a lot of jumping around to negotiate. Now, when we're slightly anxious in a performance situation, what tends to happen, not to all of us, but sometimes happens, is the muscles get a little bit, you know, because we're anxious, and when we tighten up muscles, we stop mobility from happening. We become clumsy, if you will. And let's say we land on a wrong chord or a wrong bass note. What that does is it causes even more anxiety. We think, oh my goodness, I'm going completely off the rails here. When actually we want to be completely relaxed, and little slips, just let them go in a performance, but we have to have practiced letting them go when we practice performing, if that makes any sense. So one thing I just discovered is if we used a third finger on the E here, in the underneath left hand, second, third beat, I can minimize the jumps. Let me do it without the pedal just to show you. Now, obviously that doesn't work, we can't pivot over on that third finger from the first note because I have the jump there. But if I jump to 1 and 3, it's already a smaller distance than if I were to jump from 5 to 5. So I go to 1 and 3, if my hand allows it, if not 1 and 4 possibly. And then if I practice now holding down that E with my third finger and using it as a pivot, this feels very nice, very free. Then when I play it, the third finger is in place when I play my pinky finger. So I can do that without looking at my left hand. I can do that completely by feel. The distances are very small actually. If I were to go to a 5, more problematic. The other thing that could be getting in the way here, Julie, is maybe the trills. You know, the trills, I don't think they should sound particularly rushed. I'm giving it a little bit of shape. How many notes am I putting in? Well, actually, I don't know. But it would be a minimum of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Started on the note, of course, here. Maybe 7 would be better. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Or 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. So we don't really want to count them up when we're playing. It's sometimes helpful to know when we're practicing. Let's say we're practicing slowly. It could be helpful to measure them out. You might try measuring them out a few different ways. And just always with trills to keep mobile. I'm finding myself moving back along the key and then maybe forwards again if it's a long trill. Do you see how that works? And what that does is it creates a wave in my arm and stops me being fingery. It stops me thinking fingers, and it's more from the arm combined with a finger, which is what we're aiming for. You know, and then maybe the second section, bar 17, C major, could be a little brighter. Take your time. Keep that rhythm very sharp. Turn when you've got the acciaccatura, I think it could probably go on the beat. I would suggest that it would be more comfortable on the beat. The poco più mosso, even though it's poco più mosso here, take time there, then back. That's another place where the acciaccatura could go on the beat. So I'm being very free with it, and I think if you're free with it in the way that it moves and in the way you colour it, you know, a little personal rubato here, a little personal rubato there, you should find that all of those thoughts, ideas, you can noodle around with, and I hope it helps you. So moving to Barbara. Barbara asks how to play the ornaments in the first section of Handel's Suite in E major. Are trills always started from the note above, and can you recommend an edition? Okay, this is a really good question, Barbara. I've got here the Bärenreiter edition on my shelf, along with a bunch of other different editions that are less distinguished. This is a very clear, clean, you know, from the horse's mouth type of edition. So I would recommend here in this first movement doing a Prahl triller. So let me play a little bit. and so on. Seems a shame to stop it. Very free. It's a prelude. I think the semiquavers, the 16th notes, need to move in a very kind of free way. There's no feeling of, you know, hurrying or, again, being metronomic with this. Not this. Not that. The idea is that it should sound a little bit like an improvisation. So you're coming to your keyboard and you're thinking, let's have something in E major. How do I start this? Well, a scale is a good way of doing it. To the dominant, and then maybe now I'll have a chord. Let me break it up like that. Now let me have the right hand do the same sort of stuff. Now I'm changing the harmony. So I'm tending to be quite gluey with my touch. I don't want to, you know, clean of a sound. I want harmony. And in this right hand. Finger pedaling, just leave the notes down a little bit. Now, a pral trill, P-R-A-L-L-T-R-I-L-L. It's in this instance useful because what happens is if I were to start the trill on the upper note on all of them, we'd repeat the upper note, and I think it sounds a little clumsy, a little bumpy. So a pral trillo, 3 notes, ideally on the beat or just after the beat, but in this instance there is nothing for it to sort of measure against, so we just do a minimum of 3 notes and maybe more. And because Handel has written the note of the trill as a dotted note, I think he wants us to linger on that, and there's no need actually to join. I reckon a harpsichord player would probably make a little separation there. Don't have to, you can experiment with doing that. But maybe you could just, if you think of it as being free, that shouldn't be too complicated. Now we've also got in this music mordants. So if I look at bar, well, the first mordant is actually in bar 5, on the A at the top. That's the minimum number of notes, isn't it? 3 notes. So that's the note itself, the note below, and the note itself again, the written note. So we've got 3 notes, very simple. We could do a double mordant. 1, 2, 3. More notes. And rather than play like a machine gun, ta 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 ta, I could perhaps hold the first note a little longer. So I give it an inflection, a nice bendy shape. So that's a possibility. Now the trill in bar 6, I would be inclined to have start on the upper note, but you don't have to. But I think it sounds rather lovely too. I'm making a big meal of that. A chain of appoggiatura. That's too many notes, but another mordant. I would want to put a mordant there as well. That's what bar is that? 6, 7, last beat, left hand. Just because, you know, Handel doesn't write all the ornaments in. We can add our own if we want. Ornaments are free. They're, if you think of the difference between a bird that's caged or birds that are caged, they're restricted as to what they can do, but ornaments are free from the point of view rhythmically. We can play them with, you know, absolute tight rhythm, ta-da-dam or da-da-da-dam if we want, or we can linger and loiter a little bit on those first notes, speed up, slow down through them, all that. But it's the shape of the ornament, so I don't think it would be wrong to start it on the upper note. But I think it sounds a little heavy and clumsy, so I would do a pral triller rather than a regular 4-note trill. Yes, so I hope that addresses that issue, Barbara. Now, Jeff is asking about Chopin's C-sharp minor Nocturne, Opus Posthumus. I'm really struggling to play from bar 58. And he adds, I've heard that in Chopin's music, the left hand needs to stay strictly in time while the right hand plays freely. But my fingers won't move as fast as they need to. So any suggestions, please? So we're probably all very familiar with this nocturne. It's the one that's features in the movie The Pianist. And it starts off with this slow, you know, dreamy introduction, sad. Use your left paddle for the repeat of that phrase to change the colour and play it more reflectively and a little slower. And then we've got this lovely trill. And in the coda, we go on a journey here, all sorts of different middle section stuff happening. By the way, I'm using my own study edition of the piece that you can get if you are an Online Academy subscriber. It's also available for individual purchase if you want. It just so happens that the you know, we've got all kinds of footnotes in here. We've got QR codes that if you scan them, it takes you to a little video demonstration and some practice worksheets at the end. So, you know, if you're studying this piece and you want an in-depth you know, walkthrough of it with practice suggestions, then here it is. But if I go to the coda, let me find the spot. Yeah, so usually people struggle here. So I'm starting, let me play the trill in bar 57, here. That one not so fast. This is the faster one, but give it space. And the next one slower. We'll look at them one by one, shall we? First thing, we've got to be able to use to play with a leggero touch. Now, what is a leggero touch? Leggero just means light in Italian, but what it means on the piano is a sort of staccato that's played with the fingers. We don't. This is about the only situation in piano playing where we don't aim to the key bed or sounding point, to be more precise. We're actually just on the surface. So if you practice, first of all, imagining that your arm is suspended by, you know, ropes, or not ropes, helium-filled balloons, and you've got them tied along your forearm so that the arm is weightless and the fingers just scratch. So you might want to just practice a few E major scales. If you're not familiar with the touch, do it slowly first of all. I'm on the key surface and I come back to the key surface when I release the key. On the key, just a little flick, if you will, or a scratch. Very close to the keys, no downward bearing in the arm. And it's this, and then you can develop that by just putting two notes together, maybe three notes, and then add the thumb. Don't forget to move the arm as you start to extend your scale. So the arm leads, of course, this kind of sensation. So that's the first thing, to develop the leggero touch for the right hand. Then you've got a couple of issues here. So the next issue is to look at the number of notes in each fioritura. So the first one is 18 notes to play in the time of 4. Well, what's 4 divided into 18? I've come up with 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 6. So if we do it slowly first, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. I would practice it slowly first of all, just to get the synchronization. You won't in the end have to synchronize it. It should be free, but it's helpful, rather like with trills, to measure them out. And do once or twice without the pedal so you can hear it clearly. Then you can do a little bit of chaining from one beat to the next, and then and when I'm comfortable with that, and then I can practice from the end as well, working backwards. Do you get the idea there? Now, the next issue is how do we deal with the free right hand and the strict left hand? No accompanist, excuse me, who would be playing for any singer in any period of music, well, I shouldn't really say that, because actually popular music and jazz, the backing, if you will, the accompaniment, tends to be strict, and the singer kind of bounces off, and you may find it never in time. Frank Sinatra did it that way. Well, he did it his way. But he wasn't together. He wasn't even aiming to be together with the left hand. But actually, in this, I've never heard anybody play the left hand completely strictly in this. No artist that I've ever heard playing this piece does that. And the right hand scrambling to be together. I think any good accompanist would let the singer, if the singer needed a little time, just accommodate that, you know. So you might find that the left hand is actually doing something like this. And on the next one, bar 59, would be quite a long wait, because we've got to fit in how many notes. Don't feel in any hurry for that. It's a moment of beauty. It's not a moment of imprisonment where you feel, I've got to get 35 notes in the space of 2 metronome clicks. Absolutely not. You do not. So if we look at the next one, bar 59, 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 9 is a good kind of working equation. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe practice together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, what you can do if you want to develop great flexibility with this is, instead of practicing always 8, 9, 9, 9, you could move the 8 around. So you could practice 9, 8, 9, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Have I got that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1. And then 9, 9, 9, 8. Because in the end, what's going to happen is you're not going to worry about where the left hand comes in relation to the right hand. You're just going to let it be free to do what it wants to do. And then, of course, the next two are easier. I've got for bar 63 plus 3 plus 2 as a working kind of practice model of how to organize. And then in the following bar, 4 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3. And just let the left hand accommodate. Do not practice with a metronome, please. It'll never work. John is next, and John is talking about the Glück. Well, I'll read what he says. A while ago on your blog, you recommended the Siloti transcription of Gluck's Melody from Orfeo. Magnificent piece. A lot of people play it in the Scambati version, but I actually think the Siloti is amazing. So I love it. Thank you for bringing it to my attention. However, I find the left hand a bit of a struggle in general. It's sluggish and lumpy, and I don't always feel confident with the jumps. I'm hoping you might have a couple of practice tips for me, please. Yes, John, let's have a look at this for a moment. So this is the book if you want to get... Oops. Let me get rid of those. If you want to get the book, it's called the Alexander Siloti Collection. It's also available on IMSLP for free. Well, the individual melody anyway. And this has got all sorts of marvellous things in it. Curiosities as well as this melody from Glück. So what we've got here is a beautiful singing right hand against a left hand that does move around a little bit. If you were listening to the last example where I suggested in the Chopin that the right hand be weightless, the right arm be weightless. This is the other way around. This is where we want a very light left hand. No downward bearing in the arm at all for this. However, we do want a little bit more tenuto in the basses. What do I mean by basses? I mean the bottom note, the bass note. I'm going to start the practicing from bar 3, and I'll explain why in a moment. the melodic line, the wailing singer is on the top with this beautiful, you've got to find a different colour here. Here, the right hand really projecting. But when I say projecting, it's not just playing it louder than the left hand. Any singer would inflect the notes of the line. They wouldn't sing equally. There would be a feeling of leaning on the G flat. And colouring the F much lighter. And then in the next bar, okay, so what am I doing there? First of all, I'm waiting for the B flat to decay, or rather, it will decay whether I like it or not. But I'm matching tonally, I'm not accenting the next note, otherwise I get a bang. Things like, you know, responding to intervals, intonation, for the tritone, not ti-da, but ti, like a singer would do, a little bit of a portamento in the voice. And then when we get to this next little phrase, not like a machine gun, but so I'm filling my right hand with magic moments and just creating a line that a singer would. I'm emulating a singer, in other words. But your question relates to the left hand. So the first thing I would want to do, if I was being disturbed by the jumps, I would practice a little bit of quick cover. Let me show you what quick cover is. What I do in quick cover is that it's arrhythmical. I'm not interested in rhythm, and I'm not interested in playing notes their right length. So what I do is I play the first note, the B flat, then I move quickly to the next. I'm going to choose to move to the next chord shape here. So when I'm ready to go, I go. And before I play it, I check, did I get to that chord accurately? In other words, are all my fingertips on their respective keys dead center? The third finger is a little bit too far to the left, so I wouldn't play it. The other question I'd ask is, did I get there quickly? So did I get there correctly and directly? Let me just show you this. I'm ready to move now. Yes, I'm happy with that. Hold on to that. I've got to make another movement. No, I'm too far over. Go back to that one. Yeah. Back up to this chord. Now it's a bigger journey because I've got 2 octaves. Aha, good. And tension free, of course. I happen to be doing this kind of well, but I might not be. But I'd be very fussy, you see, for myself. If I found my second finger hanging over the key, let's say, you can't probably see it so well, but let me see if you can anyway. I've played the right note. My second finger is on the D flat, but it's kind of really precariously close to the edge of the key. I want to be centered on the key, so I wouldn't then play it. I'd go back and see if I could focus on that. Yes, very good. Although I say so myself, very good. The next stage of this process I call springboarding, which looks something like this. I'm sitting on the B flat, waiting, and when I'm ready to jump, I jump off the B flat in the manner of a diving board or a springboard and land on my chord. And notice there that it wasn't very accurate. I don't try and correct it now, I just see where I am. Yeah, my second, third finger's hanging over the edge of the keys a little bit, but still, I'd manage it. Yes, that's much better. Now I'm going to release these keys, this chord, and use this chord as a springboard to get down to the bass note. So there's a liberating feeling of up, down, jump, land. And if you do land on a clonker, rather than fix it, you know, immediately, see if you can learn from your, I don't want to call it a mistake, your misjudgment, your, whatever you want to call it, your learning, you're in the learning process, so you're bound to make some errors. It's fine. You wouldn't be human if you didn't. Okay, so that's one process. It's two sides of the same coin. Quick cover, springboarding. Now I'm going to go to bar 3 just to show you the next idea, because bar 2 the pattern changes and I don't want to have to keep stopping and starting. So let me go to bar 3 and show you the next thing I would recommend doing, and I would do this for myself too. So what we've got is a bass note with a pinky, and then a chord. I have to move to another pinky, it's the same pinky finger of course, but I move from 5 to 5. Then I've got a 3-note chord, and so it goes, 3-note chord. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the lowest note of the 3-note chord and don't play the upper 2 notes. And I'm doing this with no pedal, maybe only a couple of bars at a time. Sometimes it's a 3rd finger, and sometimes it's a 4th finger, depending on the chord shape. Okay, so you've got that idea. Now let me go to the middle note of the 3-note chord. And this is going to be a 2nd finger always. Don't forget to enjoy the sensations in the hand. And now to the thumb. That's an octave. Notice that. Do you get the idea? I don't have to go through the whole thing each time. So next stage would be to combine. Maybe I'm going to now do the lowest 2 notes, omit the thumb, and now the upper 2 notes. The outer 2 notes, so I miss out the middle finger. This takes great concentration, which is the point. The idea of practicing is that we set ourselves, it's known as desirable difficulty, something that's just a little harder than autopilot, so that we have to focus and concentrate on what we're doing, and that's how we learn. If we just repeat something over and over and over, hoping that it'll change, we'll likely habituate and not be focused and not be concentrating, and then we don't learn anything, we don't absorb anything. So have I missed anything out there? I think that's probably what I would recommend doing. You could also use a little bit of accent shifting practice. So instead of putting the stress on the pinky finger on the bass note, for practice, think 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Shift it over 1 note. And then shift it over 2 notes. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2. And then 2, 3, 4, 1. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I'm rhythmically regrouping. And all of those activities, if practiced several times over the course of a few days, will cause that left hand to automate beautifully, so that when you play, you'll just be thinking of the expression in the right hand, and you can trust that your left hand will know what it's doing. I'm not worrying about what note I've got to play or how far I've got to jump, because I've done all of that thinking in my practice, so that I don't need to think when I play. So that's the end of the practice clinic. Thank you so much for watching, for submitting your questions, and if you'd like to be a part of this, the description below will give you the link to subscribe if you want to the online academy, and then you can check out all the resources that we have on our site, loads of resources from several different contributors, authors. And until we meet again, have a great summer, and I look forward to seeing you soon.